Good afternoon, guys. Nice.
Hey.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. One of the things that my website talks about is we deal with a lot of strong female characters. So I wanted to talk to you, Sam, first about how you came with crafting all of the female characters that we've come to love in the first season.
Well, part of it was I was as interested or more interested in what it was to be a woman in this very particular environment that we're writing about here. You know, as I was interested in what it was to be, you know, a male physicist, and we're incredibly lucky to have some brilliant actresses on our show who are such a pleasure to write for. But each in their own way, you know, Liza, who's a brilliant scientist in her own right, but who is cut off from her work when she comes to this place and has to kind of reckon with that and find her place. You know, those struggles were really fascinating to write about. Abby, who has this very particular fixed idea of what her life is going to look like, and that is sort of transformed when she arrives here. I mean, that was really fascinating. And Helen, you know, gave us access to this whole other set of dynamics, which is, you know, what is it to be a woman in this boys' club? And, you know, part of what's interesting is there's a sense of the potential that these three women have, and in some ways it's circumscribed by their circumstances in this place and the limitations of the time period, and then in other ways they refuse to accept that and break through. So
no, they all have a very sort of quiet strength that comes across in all of the episodes, and I think that's both due to the writing and what happens on screen. And
Wait,
kind of,
did you say quiet strength?
yeah.
Have you met Olivia Williams?
No, I have.
Okay.
But when they're in the moment, it's very sort of they're come up against a lot of things, and especially Liza, she sort of comes up against a lot of these things, and she keeps getting hit over the head with a no, you can't, but she keeps doing it, and I think that's a very. They all respond to it in a very sort of. They all respond to it, but they can't be very overt about it because of where they are and why they're here. And kind of another theme that I think is really important to the show is the idea of secrets, and how and when people tell their secrets. How many more secrets are coming this season with it being about Trinity and about actually testing the bomb? And is that going to be an arc that drives a lot of the characters through the whole season, or is there something else that's going to drive a lot of them while they're working on actually testing the actual bomb?
Well, in terms of secrecy, you know, it's sort of a metaphor that's sort of a governing metaphor for the show is that secrets beget secrets. It's sort of a chain reaction of secrecy in this show. And there's sort of, in the first episode, we see Charlie Isaacs keep the first secret from his wife, and it sort of sets him on a trajectory. There's more secrecy that these characters are reckoning with this season. And then we also sort of tell some stories about what happens when a secret is disclosed, and that's not always a great thing. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And in terms of the test and Trinity and the bomb, I mean, that really, writ large, this season is a season that takes us from the abstract, you know, this idea last season they were building a bomb that consisted mostly of equations on a blackboard, and by the end of this season they are reckoning with a real weapon of mass destruction and social implication or moral implications, and so that's sort of the stage on which almost all of our character stories play out.
I also think that we kind of went to that well once, which is the secret of the atomic bomb. So now the secret on top of that, which is we're out at Trinity, is less dramatic. And we already know you don't know what we're doing. So whether we're going out in the desert to do it or whether we're doing it here, it doesn't matter. But there are so many secrets still that they have from themselves. I mean, that's something that Sam's talked about that I think is really interesting. It's not just a secret you have that you're keeping from someone. It's your own secret.
No,
that's who you are and where your moral center is, and what have you done to lie to yourself when you finally have to look at what you've done.
Yeah, I think that comes across in the second episode, and I don't want to spoil too much because I don't know when I'm going to put this up. But that whole conceit of that episode, it felt like a bottle episode, and I don't know if you meant it as such from a writing standpoint.
Well, you know, I wish I could say financially it was a bottle episode. It was production-wise, it presented all these huge challenges, but it's an anomalous, it's an exceptional episode for us, and one we were so excited about, and it sort of tells the story of what has become of Frank. You know, it's sort of a cliffhanger at the end of season 1, but there's an aspect of it that really is like a stage play. You know, it's sort of a two-hander, this sort of psychological thriller, and it was a pleasure, a challenge, but a pleasure to write, and I thought it was so beautifully directed by Dan Attias, and the performances, you know, by John and Justin Kirk, I think, are just breathtaking.
All right, thank you guys so much. Have a good
You
day.
bet.
Thanks so
Okay,
much.
take care.